A group announces a $14 million deal to preserve nearly 3,000 acres of Tahoe wilderness.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about preserving wilderness throughout Northern California. You see a lot of it in the redwoods, but this one is interesting to me because it is basically donations from Silicon Valley tech leaders that is attempting to acquire and preserve and protect through land trusts 100,000 acres between Lake Tahoe and Lassen Peak. So, and they're protecting it and they're using it for wildlife and public recreation and water conservation. So it's basically this group of land trusts got together in Palo Alto and started talking these billionaire tech leaders into giving them money. And so they recently acquired it was a little over 2,900 acres north of Truckee to for $14 million. And this is a cool story. I mean, considering that they set it up through land trusts, makes it trusting, I guess is the word. I trust it, with them doing it, and they're doing it through a bunch of different businesses. Truckee Donner Land Trust, Feather River Land Trust, those type of things. But so far, they've preserved roughly 93,000 acres. So they're about 6 or 7,000 acres from their goal, and they've raised 78 million in private donations.
I love it. All the money for the most part is private from Silicon Valley, Palo Alto. I mean, there's a lot of tech money there, and it's nice to see them supporting the outdoor recreation and the wildlife that we in Northern California love.
Yeah, it's protecting those little areas that aren't the national forests, right? So you have Tahoe National Forest, then Plumas National Forest, then Lassen National Forest, and they all sort of go in a row between Lassen and Tahoe. But there's these little like checkers going in and out of it that are private, and I wonder if these private owners are selling it for a. I mean, they're clearly selling it for a pretty penny, $78 million. But I wonder if they jack up the price because they know the money behind it.
I'd like to think not, but I'm a realist, and so I mean, if they own a large piece of land like that, I think that ultimately they're going to want it. Their idea is to sell it. So selling it to an organization like this that's going to preserve it, that probably, I'm sure that allowed them to maybe take a little bit of a financial hit. I guess you can call a $78 million financial hit, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great story either way.
Yeah, and I guess it's particularly noteworthy because basically California state parks stopped acquiring land, and they have talked in the past year. I believe it was in 2019 or 2020 budget before the COVID. Gavin Newsom wanted to do one. He wanted to acquire land for another state park, which hadn't been done in a decade. So that in the past was stuff, that was land acquired just for outdoor recreation and that sort of thing. So now we're just doing it privately, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for privatizing things like that. Generally that creates competition, which drives prices down, and so I'm all for privatizing things, and just saving as much land as possible. So this is all around a good story for me.
Yeah, it's great. It keeps our wilderness, the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada, that area, the Sierra Nevada wilderness, and we can trust. I don't know the basics behind the timeline and everything. I'm sure every land trust has a timeline, but it keeps it from being developed for some time. So that's great. Great news.